gentlemen. Pav, I know you've been waiting the longest, bro.
Big up.
Big up, everyone. If you're there, Pav, I'd love to get your take on the situation after yesterday winning the FA Cup. What do you think the club should do with Ten Hag?
Listen, mate, I was buzzing after that FA Cup, not only because we won it, because Newcastle didn't get European football, Chelsea dropped down to the Conference League, and today Leeds didn't win the playoffs, so it's good all round. And the Leeds thing was probably more. I was more happy about the Leeds thing because I heard that if they didn't get this playoff, they didn't win this playoff, they're like financially kind of in trouble. They got to raise 100 mil. So let's hope that club goes down to the League One, League Two. Don't like them, don't like their fans, don't like anything about them. But yeah, the FA Cup, look, I've been Ten Hag out probably since the second or third week since last season started. I wasn't happy with what I saw pre-season. I wasn't happy with, I'd say, 90% of the signings. I kind of wanted the guy to build the spine for that from the back. I knew there was injury-prone players last year, and he didn't do that. And obviously, it bit him in the arse because most of our issues were because of injuries, and especially in defence. And that's why I wanted him out, because I was like, nah, this guy was supposed to change us, but it's not happening. And then we won the FA Cup yesterday. And for some reason, my mind turned a little bit, and I'm thinking he's won 2 cups now, back to back. More cups than some of these great managers that people like to come on here and talk about, rave about, aka Arteta. And I'm thinking, do we give him another year? He's got 1 more year left on his contract. Do we let him have it, but without the issues of transfers and stuff? Like, Ineos have come in. It's on you now. Everything that happens from now on, it's on you. Transfers, the people you appoint in the club, the managers, it's all on you. And I've got to a point now as well. I'm not bothered if Ten Hag stays or goes. Even though, like, if it was up to me, I'd probably sack him because I was still annoyed with what happened in the league. It was probably one of the worst seasons that I've had to endure. But yeah, I don't mind. If he stays, he stays. Look, he's won us 2 cups, and football is about trophies, as Lee Gunner says. He always says this, doesn't he? It's about trophies.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, in the end, that's where you want to get to. Of course, you have to look at other areas. We are a team that hasn't competed for a league title in 10 years, and we have to strive towards getting back to that at the same time. I want to be greedy. I want both of these things at exactly the same time. I was a little bit like you yesterday. I was because I didn't get to watch the aftermath because obviously I go live. But when I settled down last night, I put back the BBC iPlayer on, and I went back to about 5 minutes before full time, watched it all, and it was beautiful. Like, some people have accused Rashford of why is he crying? Well, it means something. I had tears in my eyes when he won, and I wasn't playing. I wasn't born in Manchester. I can understand it. I felt for Ten Hag with the way he was being questioned. I got the questioning from Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer.
Yeah, I thought that disgraceful. And I don't know why people still watch the BBC. I watched it on ITV. It wasn't as bad, like the questions and whatnot. You had like Roy Keane, Variety, and I think Lescott on there. I don't know the presenter's name, but they were pretty much respectful. And then when I went back and looked at that, Alan Shearer, I was like, bro, I swear if one of the players would just smack that guy in his bald head, bro, as he was asking him questions, I was just like, nah, you're a waste man. Yeah, and then obviously he hates us. We know he hates us. But it's a final. Don't be disrespectful.
I get that. And look, for me, as I've said for a lot of this season, I felt for so long like it was right for Ten Hag to go based on how we were performing. The bit that's frustrating me the most is, I don't know if you watched the show. I know Kevin and Matt were definitely both there. But when we played Arsenal, I came on the show and said, disappointing to lose, but I noticed some fundamental changes in the shape, in and out of possession. We were tucking our kind of inside forwards. Rashford, it would have been Ahmad and Garnacho in those games. We were tucking them inside out of possession. We had this 4-3-3 where the sort of the 2 threes sit in a kind of a bit of a diagonal line. A tactico might call it the 4-3-3 slant or something, right, and give it a weird name, but it was a 4-3-3. We were sitting differently, and we were hard for Arsenal to break down at times, but people put it down to Arsenal playing within themselves. And I thought, okay, I'll take that feedback. but we did it against Newcastle, we did it against Brighton, we won both those games, and we did it again yesterday, and we won the game. And I didn't bring this up yesterday because it wasn't the time or the place, but I did have a sense of frustration of why didn't you make these changes months ago, make it harder for teams to break us down, we'd have won more points, we'd have been in a better position, and more people would have stayed with you. The media would have probably looked at the injuries and gone, you know what, they played well today, but they just didn't quite have the quality to get over the line. And of course, we want to evolve from that. I don't want to play that football all the time.
But that's
I'd love to. Sorry, let me finish, Matt. I'd love to build up to a point where we could go toe to toe with Man City and actually take them on the field of play, and that takes time to get to. And I understand that, but that for me is where, although it was brilliant, we won a trophy yesterday. When it comes to the ruthless decision making that needs to happen to get back to winning league titles, we have to look at it and say that people internally have to make the decision. Do we believe Ten Hag and co, his coaching team, can make us play that well for 35 to 38 league games a season? That's a very different conversation, because winning FA Cups and League Cups, I love it. I don't want to stop, but I want to be a team that can win the Premier League. Nothing to guarantee, but you want to be able to win it. And until you're able to win your domestic league title, you're not good enough. Does that make sense overall? So trophies is where you want to be, but you want to be able to win all your trophies. And if we can't win the Prem, and if we're laughed at as a contender for the Champions League, we're not where we want to be. But that's why, for me, it's a case of, if we do keep him, it's not about Ten Hag. I trust the Baradas, I trust the Dan Ashworths, I trust the football decision makers at the club, because that is the bit that I am subjective about. It's what I've been asking for. So I'd be a bit of a hypocrite to get what I want and then moan about them making their decisions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you mentioned about why weren't you doing this a few months, but this is where Ten Hag's, like the inners would say, because he didn't have his players, they were injured. But then part of the problem was, when these players were coming back, he'd bring them back too early. The medical team was abysmal. You had players coming back too early, and they were getting injured again. And like I said, he did it. Like, I wanted to see our spine get built this season, and we knew from last season, obviously, Lissandro had a massive injury towards the end. We knew that Varane was injury prone, and obviously we had bids for Maguire and whatnot. Luke Shaw's injury prone, play centre back. And I was just thinking, why didn't we bring in 2 defenders in the summer? Because if we had the better spine, we wouldn't have been in this mess in the first place. This is why I said many times that I blame him for these transfers, because you could have put a stop to have people like Mount coming in. I didn't even think we needed to sell De Gea at the time, but you bought in Onana, done well yesterday, just what I say that. But some of the signings, it was just pointless. Like, we bought in Amrabat, who was injured at the start of the season. We bought in Hoyland, who was injured at the start of the season. But I didn't get what we were doing in the summer.
Yeah, no,
I was annoyed.
I agree with that. But we also brought in Amrabat, barely played him, playing for the last 4 games of the season. He started to show us exactly why a lot of us were excited.
The World Cup Amrabat, we all thought.
And that's it. But Pav, look, I hear you on that. I want to go to some of the other boys before the end of the show. Tevin, which are the subjects are you here to talk about today?
Nah, it's just big up everybody. It's just the fact that Man United somehow, some way managed to pull it off again. And this is why, regardless of whether I hate you guys, yes or no, I have to give you guys props. You guys just know how to pick up silverware. I have to give credit. It is typical for Man City to have a general perfect end of the season and beat us or tip us out to a title and then have an absolute shocker in a final. I mean, that first goal, I have no idea what the defender or Ortega was doing. And it's like Ortega couldn't make a mistake when Son was 1-on-1. No, he had to be perfect then. But yesterday, I don't know, but I have to give you guys props. And I think you guys are in a similar situation as Chelsea is, where you guys are crap for basically most of the season. And in the last 4 to 5 games, you guys started to see a system that the fans have been crying out for the entire season. For whatever reason, both managers chose to implement players in their correct position and use the correct styles. And I don't want to sound like Dan in terms of playing players in their right position at all the times, but it seems that is what happened towards the end of the season. And I have no idea why it took so long. Because Manchester United in the final 4 or 5 games, as you've alluded to, as well as the final, you guys look like a much tougher team to beat. Whereas before, you guys were being run through like, I mean, I can use many different analogies, but you know what I'm talking about. I just don't understand. But I will say big up to you, big up to Manchester United and picking up a cup. And, you know, the better than season Arsenal trophy is also there as well that you guys have picked up.
Yeah, look, I think it's, again, that's an interesting conversation because I view it as it's a more successful season, better in terms of we weren't better in the Premier League, but we were definitely better in the cup competitions. I want to ask you about Chelsea, Tevin. Obviously, they're looking, the bookmakers now have De Zerbi as the favourite to take over. There are some sources saying they believe it's as good as a done deal. It's nailed on to happen. What is your take on Chelsea going from Poch to De Zerbi, and do you think he'll improve them?
See, that is a better link than the Thomas Tuchel's, than I was seeing Mourinho, I was seeing the McKennas of the world. De Zerbi seems to be a better target after losing out on Pochettino, because I don't think they have similar styles, but I think the way they see the game in terms of being progressive and also playing with younger players, it makes more sense for De Zerbi as a manager to come in. That makes more sense as to it matches their I guess I would say their policy of buying young players with a lot of talent. I would see De Zerbi as a manager that can work with those players rather than a Tuchel, rather than a Mourinho. So it seems to be a better fit. I was hoping they didn't go there. I personally don't think he is that amazing of a manager, simply because I just feel he just does not pay enough attention to the defensive line. But then again, if you're looking at Brighton, they don't usually have defensive starlets or defensive stalwarts. So maybe it's the players that he has in his system that can't cope with how he wants to play. And then Chelsea, with having more talent, can probably translate to his system better. But De Zerbi, I don't think he's a fantastic manager, but I think it makes more of a sense that Chelsea would choose him over some of the other managers.
Yeah, listen, and I think the defensive element, a lot of people talk about that. I think it's a fair challenge, because there've definitely been defensive issues with Brighton. I'm intrigued to see what he does with. I mean, Chelsea do have better players overall than Brighton, so I'm intrigued to see what he does there.